Fans asked for it, so we're going to try it. CFE223 and N570. From what I understand, they are arguably two of the toughest powders to meter. We're going to see how the Ingenuity Precision handles it. I have no idea, so let's just see how it works and let's have some fun. Fans asked for it, so I'm going to give it a try. They wanted to know, how do powders like N570 or CFE work in the Ingenuity Precision system? I've never used either. I have no idea. I guess we're just going to see what happens. Let's go. So here we have them. These are weird powders to me. I don't use them. They are on the opposite ends of the spectrum. Like most of the powders I use are kind of like right in the middle. They're, extruded 2/100ths of a grain powder. These are on both ends of that. We've got, a very fine sand-like ball powder with the CFE here. And then we have basically little rocks with the N570. These things are big, chunky, extruded grains. And I don't know what's going to happen here, but we're going to give it a go. I did a little weighing earlier. Obviously I know that my triple nickel and a lot of your mid-range powders like 4350 and Reloader 16 and all those kinds of things are going to run roughly 2/100ths per kernel. This stuff is 4 times as heavy. I did some weighing a little bit ago. These weigh on average about 0.08. So 4 times what these things do. It means we're going to need to make a couple changes before we throw on this. The first one is obviously putting in the appropriate disc. So we're going to put in what number did I just put in here? 6115. Sorry, I forgot what number it was. So we're putting in the 6115 disc. And it's a kind of a special disc. It's obviously made for big, chunky powders like this. You have your ball powder disc, and then you've got all these other discs that all are 36 notches. And this one, because the discs, the notches are so big, and because they're spaced apart properly, there's only 16 notches here. So we have to make sure that we make an adjustment in the controller or on the app. Remember, anything I do on the controller, you can also do on the app, dealer's choice. So let's make a couple changes so that we can properly throw this big powder. Also, keep in mind, all the settings that I'm going to change can be saved under a profile. So while we are going to make probably, I think it's like 4 or 5 changes, you only have to do it one time. So it's not a big deal. So let's get in here. First thing is we need to change the disc numbers on the notches. So we're going to go in here. We're going to choose notches 16. Okay. Then what we need to do is we need to tell the trickler, because we're throwing such big kernels, we can't work on tight margins like we do with the other powders. Typically, the trickler is going to kind of do a fast trickle till it gets to 2/10ths of a grain under, and then it's going to hit the number right, it's going to hit the target right after that. That's only like 3 kernels of this powder, so we've got to move that number back. We're going to go to half a grain, okay? So 0.5 instead of 0.2. That's going to let the trickler get to a point where it works more efficiently and consistently, and that's the key, right? Slow is smooth, smooth is fast, right? We all know that. Same thing applies to your trickling systems. When we have it working the way it wants to, it's actually going to be more efficient, more consistent, and you'll actually get the speeds that you want. So we want to stop that trickler with this powder at half a grain away. Now we're going to go back in here and we're going to change a base setting. And what we want to do is we want to change the N tolerance. So with our normal, what I'll call our normal powders, we want to be at a final tolerance of 1 kernel, which is up or down 0.02 grains, which is 1 kernel, 2/100ths. Well, that's not really going to work if we've got a kernel that is 0.08 or 0.07 or 0.09. But because the average kernel is 0.08, we're going to go ahead and set the ending tolerance to 0.08. Now, it's going to stop somewhere in the range of plus or minus 1 kernel. And again, if your gun's in tune and your load's working, a kernel isn't going to hurt you. But of course, there's people who might throw away the upper over, or they might throw away the under, whatever. But bottom line, we're going to set this for a kernel under or a kernel over. So we've got that one set. Now we're going to go into the throw settings, which is the bulk drop. And there is only really one thing we need to change in here, which is the threshold. And the threshold is going to be how far under target. So I'm going to set this for, let's say, 80 grains. How far under 80 do we want this throw to go? Well, again, with mid-range powders, we would typically say a grain to a grain and a half, somewhere in there. Well, that's not going to work with the heavier powders. We need to, because it's 4 times heavier, go roughly 4 times further back. So we want to go in and set the threshold for, maybe 3.5 to 4 grains. I'm going to say 3.8 just for fun measure. And then we should be good to go. I think we got everything else in here. We've got that adjusted. Yeah, so we should be solid. All right. Let's see what calibration looks like on this thing. So we're going to go into calibrate. Number 1 is the trickler. Good to go there. Now we're going to go in, because we're going to throw 80 grains. We want to be in the mid-range calibration. That's number 3. And we should be good to go. We got the trickle calibration. We've got the bulk drop calibration. We now can go back, put in our 80 grains as our target. And I'm not going to lie, I'm a little nervous. Everybody tells me this stuff is a nightmare to work with, so. It's like listening to rocks fall. Okay, so it hit the mark. Took just a hair long, but and that one was only 7 seconds. Again, keep in mind, if there's going to be a variation, because the grains are so big, it's going to have a bigger swing, so it's not the end of the world. 80.02, perfect. It's doing way better. I mean, I know it's a good unit, but it scared me because so many people said, oh, there's no way it's going to throw this stuff. 79.96. Let me dump this out. We'll do one more. There you go. So clearly it works. It's doing just fine with it. And, I'm not going to lie. There's things that you can do. Like, this is just off the default, just making changes to accommodate the powder size. There are things I could do to speed this up a little bit. But I have to say, like, right off the bat, just for how much powder it's working with, it's doing a really great job. I mean, if I had to throw this much powder, I'd be really happy with this. I mean, everything's right within our range, so that's fantastic. So I'm going to try something, and I hope I don't regret this, but we're going to go, I don't know, let's say 120 grains. All right, come on, baby, don't let me down. Now, technically, I should probably calibrate on the large side calibration if I knew I was going to be doing this a lot. And what I'd probably do is set an over 100 calibration profile and an under 100 calibration profile if I was going to be using big powders like this. But, I mean, look at that. Perfect. 119.99, 120, depending on how I blow on it. So, I mean, that was a pretty seamless transition. We're going to get the CFE set up now. I won't bore you with the details, but we're going to pull this out. We're going to put in the small bushing. I'm going to change over the disc. pretty simple, but we'll get it set up. I'll be right back. And we're back with CFE223. Now, I know this isn't the finest ball powder out there, but this is pretty fine powder. And I don't know what this is going to do, but I decided I would move everything over to my FX. I figured I did the 570 on the Sartorius. I would show everybody what we can do over here. Now, I need to make some changes here. I've already put in, we're going to drop 7 grains. So I've already put that in. You can see that. But we have the powder. We've moved the disc or changed the disc out. So you can actually see how big that 570 disc was compared to, like, look at the notches on that thing. It's insane. The ball powder disc is 36 notches. So we're using a default setting here. We've gotten rid of the 570 setting. It's back to default. And we're going to go through and I'm going to show you what to do. But the 36 notches, we need to know. We've also taken and turned the wiper around. So the wiper facing one way is for doing extruded powders. You flip the wiper around and now you have a ball wiper. That is what we need in place now. We've also put in the small, I don't know where my other one went. We put in this is the large, and we put in the small bushing there. So we've got that all set. Let's go through the settings because, you know, when we had the 570, we had to kind of go to the high end of everything. Bigger margins between our targets, things like that because of how big it was. Now, this is so small, and we're going to be dropping a really small amount, only 7 grains. So we need to come back to the far side on the other end. So let's go into settings. We're going to go to our base settings first. There's really nothing to change here. The end tolerance is still going to be 0.02, which is the default setting. That is the maximum resolution of the FX scale, so nothing to change there. That's fine. We're going to go into the throw settings. The only thing we need to make sure that we do is the threshold, because that is the amount of powder here that it drops to come short of the target so that it can begin trickling. Because this is finer, I'm going to go to 1 grain. I'm pretty sure we could go less than that, but I'm just going to go to 1 grain and we'll see what it does. So threshold 1, so we're good there. And then we're going to go to the trickler settings. And there, let's see, 36 notches, so we're good there. So there's only 2 things we need to change on this one. First, we need to go to the start fill. Now, the default setting is 10 grains, meaning the trickler won't come on if it's inside of that 10. Or, sorry, it'll only come on inside of that 10. The thrower won't operate. Since I'm throwing 7 grains, if I was to leave the start fill at 10 grains, the system would think it should only use the trickler since we're inside of that 10 grain margin. So we need to make the margin smaller so that it knows to drop here, then go ahead and use the trickler. So let's go to 5 grains, because that should get us where we need to be. And then we need to do the end fill. We should still be able to use, I don't think we need to change that one actually. It's still at 2/10 of a grain. I don't think it's really going to matter. We could go to 1/10 of a grain probably, but I don't know. Let's just leave it there. All right, now we need to calibrate. So we're going to come in here and we're going to do the trickler first. It's so quiet compared to the 570. All right, that's done. Now we are going to do the low range because we're only going to be at 7 grains. So this is going to throw a couple. Now the one thing that I will tell you is that I was told that when I do this, if I'm going to throw anything under about 15 grains, 10 is kind of the cutoff, but let's say 10 to 15 grains, that we want to do a fine tune on this because it is so far on the low end. We really want to make sure the thrower knows what it's doing. So we're going to dump this out because the fine tune has to be done on a 0 scale. So we've zeroed that and we're going to hit 5 now for fine tune. But we do need to make sure it knows we want to do 7 grains. So now we're going to go in here to fine tune. So yeah, that first throw was like 11 grains, and I think that's about the, without doing a fine tune, that's about the lowest it'll go. The fine tune then says, hey, it wants to throw 7 grains. We need to make an adjustment on that. So now it's done a fine tune. Now we're going to come out. We're set for 7 grains. I hope I got the settings right. Let's see what happens here. There we go. 6 seconds. Six seconds, or 6.1 if we're being exact. Six 6.2. Seven 7.002. It's fluctuating right there. I mean, this is pretty crazy. It's really consistent. 6.1. Anyway, so can it throw 570? Absolutely. Can it throw CFE? 100%. I know a lot of people have asked about this. I hope this helps answer some of those questions about what the unit will be able to do. I will throw in an aside. This was the very first printed shield that he had that was sent when I first started testing. I should have the new updated one very soon. I'm very excited about it. It's a really cool design that he did, and I'm really looking forward to that. So there you go. There's what you can look forward to with the Ingenuity Precision Powder System. You want something else to get tested? Let me know in the comments below. You know I'm happy to go chase down this powder from any number of my friends, and we'll go from there. You guys have a good one. We'll talk later.